Let's talk about sex, baby. Okay, most of you are probably too young to remember that song, and that makes me feel old. Anyway, hello everyone, I'm Sarah from Everyday Starlet. Welcome to my channel. I make videos to inspire you to be the star of your own life. Let's talk about sex. Okay, I actually had a video go viral on my TikTok that got a lot of people talking, and I will actually link the YouTube video where that clip came from originally. But it was a video about women getting attached after physical intimacy, and it got a lot of people talking. I'd say the vast majority of people agreed with my perspective on this. I had a few people who wanted to argue with me about it, but it got me thinking about some topics about sex that I really wanted to cover. And one of the things that I want to talk about is sex as a manipulation tool. And I do think that there is a big stereotype. I hear it among men a lot that they believe that women use sex as a manipulation tool. I'm not saying that that doesn't happen. It does. Look, there's good and bad people, and there's wounded and healed people of any gender, or, you know, all ends of the spectrum, right? And I'm going to talk about this in terms of men and women, and some stereotypes of men and some stereotypes of women, because those are the most common scenarios where I hear this topic come up. But this by no means means that there aren't, you know, situations where there are exceptions, or that this stuff doesn't happen in same-sex relationships or things like that. I'm just going to speak about this in general terms from the stereotypical heterosexual perspective on this, because that is the most common, and that's the area that I'm the most familiar with. There are two things that I believe to be true, and some people might find these to be contradictory, but I believe these both to be very true and important for people to understand. One, sex should never be used as a way to manipulate people or control people. I believe that that is actually very disrespectful to the act of sex to be doing those things. And I also very firmly believe that nobody, but in particular in this case, speaking of women, should ever have sexual interactions of any kind unless they are a full-bodied yes to it. There are going to be times when those two things are going to feel like they're in conflict. They aren't, but there are going to be times when, particularly for women, it's going to feel like those things are in conflict. So, say for example, you have a man and a woman in a relationship, they get into an argument. And because we have really poor communication skills in our relationships nowadays, which is a whole other topic in general, very often those situations don't get resolved, or they don't get resolved well. Now, in most cases, and I'm generalizing here, but in most cases, men are able to disconnect their emotions from physical intimacy. Men actually view physical intimacy differently than women do. I'm speaking generally here, and I know some people are going to come for me about this, but in general, there's a lot of different reasons for that. Energetically, physically, biologically, socially, and there's a lot of different reasons for that. In some cases, men actually need physical intimacy in order to feel close to their partner, in order to resolve some issues. But because of this, if an argument, say, ends, but there's a lot of unresolved conflict going on, men in relationships are more likely to be able to just sort of put a pin in that, put it aside, and still want to have some kind of sexual connection. For most women in relationships, that's going to be very, very difficult. Because of all of those things, physically, energetically, biologically, all kinds of reasons, for most women, if they're holding on to some kind of emotional pain, emotional resentment, lack of safety, or you know, instability in their relationship, for most women, it's going to be very, very difficult for them to be able to open sexually. However, many women will override that feeling and engage in sexual activity anyway, because many women feel like they need to please their partners. Women are still to this day conditioned to please their male partner so that they don't leave. That's another biological function that many women exist. Not every woman, mind you, but there is a lot of biological need for women to feel like they need to please a man in order for him to not leave her, which is one of the reasons why a lot of women stay in really bad relationships for a lot longer than they should, and other people are like, why would anyone stay with someone like that? It's a biological need. That's just how women are programmed in many cases. So because many women have, and some of this is biological and some of this is social, that many women feel a need to please their partner, many women will override that bodily intuition of feeling shut down, and will sort of almost force themselves to engage in sexual activity with their partner. Not necessarily their partner is forcing them, but they themselves feel like they need to do this anyway. And in many situations, and this is where you get into some really toxic behavior among men, there are men, particularly ones who are in their ego, people who are on the spectrum of narcissism, people who are manipulative, gaslighters, things like that, who will accuse a woman who is shut down in that way of using sex to manipulate him, or saying, well, you're just mad at me, or you're just angry, or you're just trying to withhold sex from me because I won't do what you want. So then women then, in many cases, will feel the pressure to then open up because they don't want to be seen as being that manipulative person, right? And if women keep overriding their bodily cues that are telling them that they're not open sexually, and that women keep overriding, they keep not listening to their body, eventually their bodies are going to catch up with them and probably start causing problems. That's where you're going to get women who are going to get these sort of like unforeseen medical situations, mental health situations. A lot of that stuff can be traced back to women not listening to their body and not listening to their intuition. I think in general, probably most of the guys out there who are really, you know, in a healthy place with their masculine energy, or really, you know, doing the healing work, are going to understand that when a woman says no, it's not necessarily always a manipulative tactic, right? That sometimes it's just there's something going on and she just can't open in that moment. Doesn't mean that as a man you can't try to open her. You can't try to, whether it be communication skills, or that you can't open up the lines of communication is ideal, or you can't maybe try to stoke the flame a little bit. Like, I'm not saying that you have to just like sit back and be like, okay, well, she said no, so I'm just gonna like go play video games all day. Like, I'm not saying that at all. But what I'm saying is honoring her body's no, or honoring her body's like not now, is super important. And I realize that most men who are toxic, who are gaslighters, are probably not going to listen to what I'm saying anyway. But I just think it's valid, because I think there's a lot of messages out there of like, well, if a woman ever turns down a man, it must be that she's manipulative, or she's mad at him or something. And I think it's so important for men to understand how important it is for women to listen to their intuition and their bodily cues. Now, that said, and again, I'm speaking to the men specifically, if you find that your partner is always shut down, is never open to sexual activity, is totally closed off to you, and you feel like this is a pattern and this is something that's happening all the time, or you're feeling like this is having a negative effect on the relationship, opening the lines of communication, even maybe going to you know, a counselor or a relationship coach or something like that, is completely valid. I'm not saying that you have to just sit back and be like, okay, well, whatever she wants, that's fine. Like, I'm not talking about being a passive partner. I'm talking about honoring her bodily cues of when her body is telling her that things are right and when things are wrong, and not accusing her of manipulating you, unless you really do believe she's manipulating you. If that's the case, then having that discussion or deciding whether or not you want to be in a relationship with someone that's manipulating you is 100% valid. So for the women, if I get nothing else across to you, it's to listen to your body, to connect with your body, to tune into your body and tune into your intuition, and ask yourself, particularly when we're talking about a sexual situation, of being like, hey, do I want to do this right now? Am I a full-bodied yes to this? I mean, if you're a full-bodied yes to it, then great. But if you're a no, or you're a maybe, or a not now, or an I'm not sure, honor that. It's so important. It's valid to ask yourself, why am I a no, or why am I a not now? And listening to that and taking the next step from there. Asking yourself, what would I need to be a yes? If what you need to be a yes is need to actually sit down and have a discussion about the conflict or the thing that's bothering you, or you feel like you need, you know, time and space to work through things, or, you know, whatever it is that you feel like you need. Maybe you just need to take a nap. Maybe you just need to take a bath. Maybe what you need is more foreplay. I don't know. But actually asking yourself, okay, what do I need in this moment? And then going to your partner and saying, okay, you know what? What I'm feeling like I need in order to be a yes is, you know, this or this. You know what I mean? That way you're not just shutting down your partner and just saying, nope, not, and like just shutting it down and ending it. That way you can get the lines of communication going, so the two of you can actually figure out how you can get to a yes in the situation. Maybe it won't happen right away. Maybe it's not going to be a yes. If it's a big conflict and there's a lot of resentment and a lot of issues going on, it's so important for you as a woman to honor your body. Your body has so much wisdom. And for men out there, your female partner's body has a lot of wisdom. And she may be saving you from a lot of hassles down the road by listening to her body and actually cueing in and giving you a solid answer. It may not be the answer that you want in that moment, but it's so important that you listen to her body. And I feel like so many women have been, gaslit or even just conditioned to not listen to their bodies. And so many women have ended up saying yes when they really wanted to say no, or they really wanted to say not now. And it's so important for women to listen to that. So also, I had a video about women getting attached due to physical intimacy, and I had a clip of that go viral on TikTok, and so it got a lot of people talking. Most people, I'd say the vast majority of people, particularly women, had said that yes, this is true. When they have physical intimacy, there is an attachment. Hormonally, energetically, spiritually, all kinds of stuff, right? I had a few people that argued with me that it wasn't true. People have their opinions. I get it. I had a few women who said that this doesn't happen to them and they wanted to know why it doesn't happen to them. Now, granted, the TikTok clip that went viral was a very short clip from a slightly longer video, which I will link the video to this one. But I want to discuss a little bit more about the concept of, women getting attached due to physical intimacy. And I want to clarify a few things. There is a hormone that gets released in a woman's body when she has physical intimacy that does cause her to attach, which is a biological function. Energetically speaking, women have a much more direct connection from their heart to their cervix. Usually a more direct connection than, say, a man has from his heart to his sexual genitalia. Energetically, women have more of a heart connection in that sense. Men can more easily detach from those things, right? If you just think of it from a physical level, a man's sexual organs are on the outside of his body, the woman's sexual organs are on the inside of her body. The woman is the one getting entered, so it's different on a physical level as well. When I talk about this attachment and the hormone that gets released and the energetic connections, and some people are calling them soul ties, things like that, it doesn't mean that every time a woman sleeps with a man that she's automatically gonna start planning their wedding and decide that she needs to stay with him for the rest of her life. It's not an automatic thing. There's other factors involved as to why a woman would get attached to a man and actually want to stay with him. I'm talking about in that moment. Very often women can become very needy immediately after the physical intimacy, whereas men, they tend to, because of the release, their mind isn't thinking about the future, whereas as a woman can very often become needy. Not always. And sometimes that emotional reaction that a woman has isn't necessarily I want this man in my life. This emotional reaction can lead to fear if somebody has some avoidancy issues, so it can lead for them to run. It can lead for them to not want to be with this person. It doesn't mean that there isn't an emotional reaction, but they will have a heightened level of emotional reaction in general. It doesn't necessarily mean that they are yes, this is a man I'm going to spend the rest of my life with, right? That can happen, and that can happen to some women. It doesn't happen to every woman, and that reaction isn't exactly the same in every person, because there's other factors that go on. We're multidimensional beings, and we are not a slave to one hormone. But I do think that the fact that women have more of an emotional connection, I know some people say that that's socialized. There's a lot of physical reasons, spiritual reasons, energetic reasons why sex is not the exact same for men and women, and I'm not saying that men can't get attached. They totally can. There's more of an emotional reaction with women, and it's something that women need to be mindful of, that it will eventually wear on them more often than it will wear on a man in the same situation. Men can go through their own attachment things. Women can go through their own fear of attachment to things. There's other aspects that go along with this, but I do think it's really important to note that, and this is something that people want to actually admit, women are always more vulnerable in sexual situations than men are. All the time. every single time women are more vulnerable. There's physical strength that happens in those situations. Biological things, women are more susceptible to sexually transmitted diseases. Women have the risk of pregnancy. There's a lot of different aspects, and I think that we need to honor that. And I've seen a lot of people, you know, there are individual situations where yes, there are men who get more emotionally vulnerable in sexual situations than women do. And I think some of that is socialization, but I think we also need to honor that women are more vulnerable in these situations. I saw a video, Jordan Peterson's speech, where he talked about how men complain about women being very, particular about who they connect with, who they hook up with. And he's like, well, yeah, if you had a risk of pregnancy, you would be more particular as well. And I think that that's important. And I do see a lot of men who complain that women are the gatekeepers to sex. Here, we're designed that way. We're more vulnerable in these situations. We're the ones that hold the risk of pregnancy. We're the ones that hold the risk of a lot more emotional damage. We are more at risk physically, emotionally, energetically, a lot of different reasons, which is why women need to be more protective over who they interact with sexually. And I think that's really important for men and women to understand, because all things are not equal. And I know that a lot of people, and I've seen a lot of people who want to deny that men and women are different. And you know what? I'm just gonna say it right now. Men can't get pregnant. I know, I just shook everybody's belief system to the core. Whatever. Anyway, the emojis, sometimes emojis lie to you. I'm just saying. Anyway, men and women are not the same biologically. We're not. Doesn't mean that we're not equally important. I believe that men and women, masculine, feminine, everything, we are equally important to the survival of our society, of species, everything. We're equally as important. We're not the same. And I think it's really important. And I think, I mean, if you get nothing else from this video, it is that I really do believe that men need to honor women's bodies and women's decisions. And I think that women need to honor their own bodies, their own intuition, and their own inner wisdom. Because when we ignore those things, that's when things start going wrong. And that's when we start having problems. And so I really hope, if you take anything away from this video, that that's it. Is that women's bodies need to be honored. Women are being massively conditioned to disconnect from their bodies through birth control, through the food that they're being forced on, through not being able to make their own medical decisions in a lot of situations, being pressured or manipulated into situations that they don't want to be in. It happens every day, and I'm not saying that these things aren't happening to men as well in various ways. But in this particular situation, I really wanted to address how important I believe that it is for women to tune in with their bodies and connect with their bodies, and for everybody, men included, to honor when a woman is connected to her body and connected to her intuition. Because women's bodies and intuitions, they don't tend to lie. They tend to be right most of the time. You know, obviously there are traumas and fears and ego things that come in for women as well as men, and those are things that, as women we need to work through. But when we're actually tuning into our body and our intuition, it's so important that we listen to it, because that is just the most important thing that you can do. And that's the most important way for you to connect to your feminine energy, is to tune into your intuition, because it will not steer you in the wrong direction. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this rambly topic about sex and intuition. If you guys have any other topics you would like me to discuss, let me know. Leave a comment in the comment section below. I love to hear from you. I love your suggestions. If you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, please give it a big thumbs up, and be sure you subscribe to my channel. If you want to connect to your feminine energy and your womanly intuition, I have an online course called Feminine Radiance. The link is in the description box below, along with all my social media links. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you join me next time.